Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be installing a motion activated security light on the side of our house. Now there was no light here before, so now we needed to determine the location of where we're going to put it. So we determined the height and where we want to put it in relationship to the location. We then went inside the house and we took our stud locator and checked to make sure that there was no stud directly in the spot of where we're going to put our hole to run the wiring through. And then we're going to come in here with a very small drill bit and we're going to drill a pilot hole all the way through inside so we can see where it's coming through. And then once we drill it with the small pilot hole, we'll come in with a larger drill bit and we'll drill it long enough or wide enough to accommodate the thicker wire that we need to put through. Alright? So after we drilled our small pilot hole, we went inside, we checked to make sure that there was nothing in the way inside there. We took our stud detector, which also has a detector to check if there's any electrical wiring inside the wall there. We checked it to make sure that there was no wires in the wall and that there was no stud in the way as well. And now we're going to drill it very slowly through here until we actually go through the siding, through the sheathing, and then through the drywall inside the garage. So we're going to continue drilling nice and slow until we get through all of that. Okay, next we laid out our wire. We're going to go up our ladder and we're going to put the wire through from the outside of the house to the inside, just so we have enough wire inside to connect it up to the electrical outlet, which is already existing inside there. So we're going to feed our wire through. We're going to have our assistant inside the house itself pull the wire. We're going to put an adequate amount of wire inside the garage, and then once we have an adequate amount in there, we're just going to cut it off on the end to accommodate the new box that we're going to put in. So here we have plenty of extra wire. We are going to cut it to length later on, but this is the wire inside the house itself. What we'll do, we'll grab our cutting pliers and we're going to cut the wire to the length that we need. All right, next we're going to take our exterior box that we're going to be mounted outside of the house itself. This is meant for a wet location, just so you know it is waterproof. We are going to open it up. We're going to take out all of the hardware that came with it. There is small little plugs that you put in here, and we're going to put those in there. We're going to put some silicone on it, and we're going to screw them in there, so that way the box will then be waterproof, and we don't have to worry about water getting into it. They come with all these different plugs, so we're going to put silicone on all of them, and then once we do, we'll get them into the location and screw them all in nice and tight. Okay, next we're going to come up here with the electrical box that we actually are going to install. We're going to put it up in this location. We're going to grab a pencil. We're going to mark exactly where we're going to be putting the screws to hold it up to the building itself. I do want to mention this. What you want to use is you want to use a stainless steel screw, because as you know, this will be out in the outside, and we don't want everything getting all rusty and having rust running down the side of the building itself. So now we're going to pre-drill the holes that we're going to put the screws in. They don't have to go in far, just into the sheathing below. Yep. Hold the box up in position. We're going to grab our screw gun and we're going to screw them in. If you don't have a screw gun, of course you can do it by hand, but we're going to just run them in until it's snug. It does not have to be tight. It's just sitting against the siding itself. And it's personal preference. I did do it. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I put some silicone underneath there to make it absolutely waterproof. So that water won't get down, trickle down through the side of the siding and then into the house itself. So to silicone it is probably a good idea, just to make sure that no moisture gets into the house. So now after we have these snug down, we're going to grab our wiring. We're going to cut the wiring back. We're going to cut off the outside insulation part, probably to leave about 3 inches of wiring exposed. And then we're going to separate the white, the black, and of course the ground. We're going to cut that paper off because the paper is no longer needed. And now we're ready to install our fixture up onto it. We're going to grab our strippers and we're going to strip down some of the insulation off of it, probably about 3/4 of an inch. We can always trim it back later on. But we're going to trim off the insulation so we're ready to put the light in. So now after we strip the wires back, we're going to take our bracket that's mounted to the box itself. The screws came provided with the new box. We're going to put the bracket on there. We're going to screw it down until it's snug. Doesn't have to be really super tight. We're just going to tighten it down. Remember, the part that's actually threaded goes inside and the ground screw goes facing up, so we can connect our ground wire on later on onto it. All right, next we're going to come up here with our light fixture, and we're going to take our white wire to connect to our white wire, our black to the black, and then the ground gets grounded to the light fixture itself. But we're going to strip it back because they are a little bit longer than we need. Take our white wire, we're going to hold both wires in our hand, and we're going to twist the wires around each other. Then we're going to grab our wire nut that comes provided with the new light fixture, and we'll screw it down. The wire nut goes in a clockwise position until it's nice and tight. Grab the wires and give it a tug back and forth to make sure that the wires are nice and tight and that they're not loose. I've seen it happen many times where the wires, you may think they're tight and they're really not. They just push down. All right, now we'll do the exact same thing with the black one. Hold it with our one hand, screw the wires around, and then put our wire nut over the top of it and screw it down as tight as you can. Once it's tight, grab the wires and give them a pull just to make sure it's a nice tight connection in there. Our green wire is going to be connected up to our pigtail up on the top. That ground wire is connected to the box itself. I'll show you in just a minute where it's grounded through the back of the box. There's a ground wire inside there. We're going to screw a cap on that, and now our fixture is grounded to the box, which is then grounded into the electrical wiring itself.
Okay.
All right, again, once you put the cap on there, make sure that the wires are nice and tight. As you can see right there, the wire didn't grip really well. So we're going to do it again, screw it around, put that wire nut on, tighten it down in a clockwise direction. And once you have it as tight as you can possibly make it, then we're going to go up there and we're going to tug the wires just to make sure that nothing moves. Nice and tight. Grab the wires and give it a little bit of a pull and make sure. Now let me show you what that looks like inside with that ground wire that I was telling you about. You see how the wire is grounded to the back of the box right there? That green screw comes provided with the box, and that grounds the wiring to the house. White to white and black to black. Now we're going to take these wires and we're going to push them up underneath there so we can put our light fixture on. I do want to mention that that gasket was on the light fixture itself, and we put that gasket on there first because once the wiring is connected, we will not be able to get that gasket on there because, as you can see, it goes right through the center of it. Push them out of the way. Once you have it pushed back out of the way, then we're going to put our light fixture onto it, and we'll install that screw through the center of it to hold it in place. As you can see, sometimes you need three hands to do this. We're just trying to get our wires recessed and out of the way so we don't pinch it when we put the light fixture up. So we'll get our gasket in place now. Once the gasket's in place, then we'll slide the screw through it and we'll tighten that screw up. And being very careful when you put that light fixture up there, we're going to make sure our gasket is not pinching any of the wires and that the wires are all recessed inside the electrical box where they belong. We're going to put our screw through the center of it. We're going to position it so that the eye is facing to the position you want it to be facing to. And then we're going to screw it in with our regular screwdriver. We're not going to use an electric screwdriver on this one here. We're going to center it, screw it down until it's tight. It doesn't have to be real tight. We just want to make it snug down so it actually pinches the gasket so that the gasket itself now makes the light fixture waterproof. All right, once we snug it down, that's it. And we can position our lights temporarily until we go later on at night back out there to make sure it's facing in the correct direction. Now we're going to turn off the power supply inside the garage up to the light receptacle that we're going to be using. We have our wires here. We stapled them up to the ceiling, we brought it around, and we're going to actually connect it in to this light fixture here. Now we know that the power is off, but if you're not sure, be real careful and test it with a voltage tester to make sure that everything is good. So we're going to take that cover off now, and this way we can access the wiring underneath there and we can connect into it. Now after we have our cover off, we're going to disconnect the outlet that's up there now. We're going to unscrew it and we're going to pull that outlet down and out of the way so we can get up in there to access the wiring. On the side of the existing box, you'll see an indented area right here. We're just going to tap out that little plug on there so that we can put our connector, our electrical connector in there for the Romex cable. So we're going to tap it. Once it pushes to the inside, we'll get in there with a pair of pliers or a screwdriver and we'll get that piece out so we can screw in our new electrical connector so that our Romex wire will then be connected in there safely. Now we can get in there with a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, whatever you have. Romex connector here that I was telling you about. We're going to take the wire and we're going to push it right through the center of it and we'll make all of our connections inside the box. So we put that wire, that connector inside there, we grab the lock ring that came provided with it and then we screw it together and then we tighten it down all the way. And once we have it tight enough, then we'll push the wires in through there so that we can bring the wires inside the box. Now just snug it down. Once it's tight, then we'll take our wires and slide our wires in through the box itself, in through the connector itself into the box. We have a little bit of extra, of course, so we are going to have some excess that we're going to cut off of there. And we'll just work our way through and pull it down, just like that. And of course, once we pull this through here, we are going to put some connectors or wire staples that will hold the wire to the ceiling. Now check with your local codes. It's important that these staples have to be within a certain distance of the electrical box itself, but your codes may be different than everybody else's, so check whatever your local building codes would be. We're now going to screw the wire tight in there. It does not have to be real tight. You just want to snug it down so that the wire itself will not move when we are inside working with it. So just nice and snug is good enough. And once we have that done, then we'll cut the wire to length and then we'll strip back the insulation and we'll make our connections inside the box. So once we stripped the wires back and we made our connection onto the existing electrical outlet that was up there, we connected up our white to white, black to black, and of course the ground was also connected up to the ground so that we have a nice tight connection. Next, we're going to put this back up inside the box. We're going to play around with the wires to recess them up in there, and then we'll go outside and we'll make sure that everything works properly. Okay, so now we're going to angle the light to the approximate location that we want it. We are going to turn down the electric eye, and now we'll go up there and we'll make our final adjustments and get this all set. Do a little thing there real quick. Okay, so now we turned it to the test position, and we're going to come in here and we're going to adjust it so that actually the electric eye picks up the location that we want, and then we'll be all set, and we'll turn it back from the test to the duration, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever you want, you can set it for. But that's it, this job is done, and we're on to the next one. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.